Hey guys, hope you had a great week. It's been an interesting week here over at SmartHER News, and a few unexpected things happened, which I'm going to share with you in just a moment, but want to get straight to the news. The top 3 things you should know in 5 minutes or less, and as I'm looking at this camera, I'm seeing that I have a faucet package right above my head, so you can tell that we're still not quite moved in quite yet. But here's the top 3 things you should know for this week's news. One of the big news items was this NATO summit that happened overseas. NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And why does it matter? Well, it was born out of World War II as the world sort of we looked at each other and said, how are we going to prevent a world war from happening again? And also to counter the growth of the Soviet Union. There were a few different factors that went into this alliance. America was one of the original members, as were European countries, and NATO has grown over the years. Every year, the world leaders come together and they have a meeting. This year was special because it was marking 70 years of NATO being in operation. And I just want to point out, when it comes to press coverage of this, it sort of turns into the Real Housewives of NATO. Because there's all this sort of gossipy things that happen that are a little bit distraction from the news. You know, who said what about who looked at who this way, who shook hands this way. And it's in that category of world leaders. They're just like us. They're not perfect. And a lot of this focuses on President Trump and the way that he behaves. And it's been this way since he became president and attended his first summit going back to 2017. So here's what I think you should really know about what happened at the NATO summit. There's a lot of talk, again, on the sidelines of different personalities clashing. But one of the things that the president has talked about over the years is the contributions of different member nations to NATO. Member nations are supposed to contribute a certain amount of their total economy to their defense as a way of assuring collective defense as needed. NATO operates on collective defense, meaning if you get in trouble or I get in trouble, we're going to defend each other. And so we need to have the right resources going towards our military in order to do so. And so President Trump was saying, hey, a lot of these countries aren't contributing what they should, and I don't like it. And it's a fact that President Trump can rub people the wrong way. And it's a fact that he can be pretty direct. And that's how he's been over the years. So what you should know is that the Secretary General of NATO during a press conference said that there's been a big change over the last few years and that more member nations are contributing what they should be towards their defense to the tune of more than $100 billion. And it's going to continue that way. And he felt that was really important and made NATO more prepared to counter any sort of aggressor, whoever that would be. And so I think that's an important thing that you should know. The second thing you should know, back in America, though, there's a lot going on in Congress as this impeachment inquiry has turned into more of an official impeachment proceeding. So the House Judiciary Committee, led by the Democrats, has taken up this impeachment. And what they are doing is creating articles of impeachment. So these are the things that lawmakers would vote on, the items that lawmakers would vote on to say whether or not the president should be impeached. So you should know that progress towards that vote is happening. Whether or not that vote will happen and when it happens, we don't know. But there's movement towards it. One of the things that the House did is they called congressional attorneys together, that had a historical knowledge about impeachment. And they had a hearing. And it was fascinating to hear about what these different lawyers thought. 3 of them thought that the president should be impeached. They were invited by the Democrats. One, who says he's not a President Trump supporter, was called by the Republicans because he doesn't believe that the president should be impeached. His argument was there's not a big enough foundation to build the tall building that you need, the tallest building in the land, to impeach the president of the United States. The other said there's definitely enough information. The Constitution is the highest law in the land, and the president violated it. So those are the 2 arguments. So we'll wait and see what's next. Final thing I think you should know from this week is the anniversary of Rosa Parks. And today, actually, the Library of Congress announced a new exhibit looking at her life, looking before what happened on the bus in Montgomery, Alabama, and what happened after. And so what you should know is that on December 1st, that's the anniversary of when Rosa Parks decided not to get up because of the color of her skin on the bus in question. And that led to a bus boycott in Montgomery that then led to further challenges of segregation laws and some of those laws being, I want to say broken, but dismantled in the South. And so her one little movement, her one decision created this big movement. I, of course, know the name Rosa Parks, but I didn't really know the connection between what happened when she decided not to stand up, and then the movement that happened after. And I want to explain and tie that a little bit back to something personal that happened this week. And I'll explain the connection. So those are the 3 things you should know, hopefully in less than 5 minutes, but here's a little extra. So what you should know about Rosa Parks is that she was an activist most of her life. She wasn't just a seamstress that decided not to stand up. She was prepared for that moment. She didn't perfectly produce it. It sort of happened, but it was because of her experience and the stance in her community that when she was arrested, the community rallied around her and decided to boycott the buses. You see, so it was not just this one individual that made a decision. It was the preparation that she put in, the relationships that she had, and then it sparked this amazing movement. And I was reading history. I love reading history because there's always something different to take away from it. But this week there was a lesson in that for me as a mom and as an entrepreneur, because I think constantly I'm searching for perfection, especially in business. And the truth is that perfection is hard and not necessary all the time. You don't have to produce this perfectly produced video or business or website to actually make progress. And so this week was an interesting week. I've been working on refreshing the website for SmartHER News, and it was supposed to be a 6-week project that actually ended up taking almost 6 months. This week we flipped the switch, we made the website live, and it had a series of different problems. And if you visit smarternews.com, you might see some of those problems, but the progress is there. So I want you to check it out. No, it's not completely updated yet. It's going to be updated over the next several days and weeks, and it's going to change a little bit about how we produce the news, but I think it's going to be more effective and more efficient for you, because the goal of SmartHER News is not just to stay where we're at. And if you're viewing us on social media, I think that's great and continue to do so, but it's to build on it. So SmartHER News becomes, SmartHER London and SmartHER Austin and SmartHER San Francisco and SmartHER Australia. And it becomes SmartHER Beauty and SmartHER Health and SmartHER Fitness. You see, it's supposed to expand and grow our community, and so that's why I wanted to build the foundation to continue to build on it. So anyways, that's what happened this week. It was a little bit of a bummer, and I'm going to write a little bit more about it and share that with you, the process. But again, as I was thinking about Rosa Parks, thinking about the moment, and I'm not comparing the two moments at all, civil rights movement to what I'm doing, but it was just a reminder about how simple acts that, again, aren't perfectly produced can actually spark and ignite huge movements. And so I hope maybe SmartHER News isn't perfectly produced all the time, but that there's a spark for the movement that we need to provide clarity in news. So anyways, that's my little personal story to share with you this week. And I look forward to hearing what you'd like to hear more about as we close out 2019. There's only a few more weeks in the year. Let me know what you'd like to hear about and what's next on SmartHER News. I'll see you next week on smarternews.com.